in recent days out of their bullpen. But for their closer, Edwin Diaz, to throw 130 pitches over 8 days is an insane amount of work, especially at the beginning of October. This is not like in the last week and, he's expending everything down the stretch. This is early to be in that position. And so as the Mets go forward, they're not sure what they have. If you're the Phillies, I think, and we talk so much about, what teams lose when they have the bye and they have the days off. I think the relievers were affected more than anybody, because you get out of your routine. You're not, pitching every other day. I do think going forward that Matt Strom, Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez, those guys will be better than what we saw in the first two games when they allowed 10 runs in 6 innings.
Buster, I sometimes overthink things or think too far ahead. But to me, I think one of the keys for the Phillies potentially winning a World Series is getting this series done in 4 so they don't have to pitch Wheeler twice in the NLDS. Is that overthinking it?
No, I don't. Now, there's nothing you can really, you just hope for the best and you hope you get through. But, that would be at a big advantage because, again, the Padres are that good. And I do think they're going to survive the Dodgers, who, have to hit their way past some of their pitching concerns. And now, we don't know if Freddie Freeman's going to play anymore in this series, and he's such a big part of that lineup. The Padres are just playing with so much confidence. And so I think you're right. The more that you have Wheeler, a guy who can miss bats, against the best teams, he's probably he and Skubal are the two starting pitchers that every manager would love to have in this postseason right now. That would be a big plus for them.
What did you make of what seemed to be a benching of Alec Boehm, and then he was obviously brought back into the game to pinch hit and stay in the game for Edmundo Sosa? He'll be back in the lineup today. What did you make of that?
Yeah, it was interesting, and because you guys know Rob Thompson, he's very even keel. He's not going to overreact. I think that was, I didn't hear this from Rob directly. I do think that he's trying to ramp up the urgency, and he really has been since the end of August when he held that team meeting and he talked to the players about, we need to start thinking about, doing the small things and doing what we need to do to find a way to win games. I really think that was, and I'm sure I'm not saying anything you guys haven't said already, that really was about the swing and miss and the chase and trying to cut down on swings and don't play hero ball. Maybe that manifested a little bit the other day in Game 2 and got everybody's attention. You did feel like, especially when they got down, that the Phillies players at some point who had to live all winter with the fact that they blew that series against the Diamondbacks, they probably begin to dig just a little bit deeper, thinking, "Oh my God, we're going to have this happen again. We're going to lose 2 games in a row at Citizens Bank Park again." And they dug in a little deeper, and maybe the Boehm situation sort of helped reinforce that urgency to them.
It sort of felt like a dad who says, "You are grounded for the week. You are not going out, young man." And then Saturday night says, "All right, son, you can go out. Go hang out. I know I told you were grounded." Because, he didn't even the benching lasted 5 innings. That didn't make sense to me. And then he goes up there and sees 3 pitches in 2 at-bats.
Yeah. I'm going to be curious to see, as they go forward. This clearly has now become the barometer for success for this team is, can they get away from having that? I'm sure you guys have seen the numbers that during the course of the year, they had more chase than any team in the majors, 32.1%. And that's what they did in Game 1. And going forward, Castellanos, the way they pitched him in that last plate appearance before the end of the game, the Mets were like, here, we're just going to throw the ball outside and see, we're going to intend to throw the ball outside and see if you'll chase. And, that last pitch was a mistake, a backup slider that went over the plate.
Yep. Buster, could you just take a moment and speak on the greatness of Bryce Harper? Like, you see what this guy has done ever since he's come to Philadelphia. Remember the big moment in 2022 against the Padres, another incredible playoff last year before the NLCS, and, of course, what we saw in Game 2 of this series. What does Bryce Harper mean to baseball? And when you watch him, where does he rank among other top players in the history of the sport with what he does in the playoffs?
Yeah, he's Derek Jeter of this group. It feels like where that in October when Bryce Harper's there. I mean, as he was going through those elbow problems and not hitting in early September, my feeling internally was always going to be like, yeah, wait till October, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Once you get the games with the highest pressure, the greatest intensity. Bryce, you always assumed was going to focus and he was going to get it done. And I always think I've had a lot of conversations about Bryce with friends in the sport about how cool it is for us in our jobs to see these guys in the beginnings of their careers when they're young and dumb like the rest of us at age 18, 19, and then they grow as people. And to see Bryce now, I mean, to hear him reflexively compliment guys on the other team. Boy, Sevy had great stuff.
Yeah.
Man, what a great at bat by that Mets player, and have such perspective on it. I think that part of him is part of the reason why he's so good in October. Like, he just seems to have such a presence and such a comfort level at this time of year that a lot of players, Jazz Chisholm comes to mind right away, doesn't have.
Do you think that managing sometimes gets overrated or overanalyzed more likely in the postseason?
Well, there's no doubt it gets overanalyzed, and every move is scrutinized, and everything goes through the prism of how did it turn out. I mean, if you win, you're the greatest and you're the smartest, and if you lose, you're the dumbest. And how could you possibly do that? That's the nature of the sport, especially I think when you're talking about the Mets, Yankees, and Phillies. We're all wondering if the Yankees get knocked out in this first round, will Aaron Boone survive? I mean, The Yankees just won more games than any team in the American League, but under that doctrine of if you lose the World Series, you suck. Yeah, he probably might be in jeopardy.
Buster, we had people ripping Rob Thompson for pulling Zach Wheeler after throwing 111 pitches.
We did.
That's
not
right.
us, not
exactly.
us, but we had people.
No, not us, but yeah, there were people that were upset that he was pulled after 111 pitches. It is truly amazing. Listen, Buster, keep up the great work. We always appreciate you coming on the station, no matter which show. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll be bugging you again down the road because the Phillies will be in the NLCS, and I believe your NL prediction of the World Series opponent or one of the two teams will be correct.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. There's Buster Olney on the Comcast Business Hotline.